Good Monday morning, everyone. I thought we'd talk a little bit more about the Gnostic Mass. In yesterday's Sunday school, I opened up the Gnostic Mass can of worms, or as we might say, as Abraham the Jew might say, we opened up a can of verms. Anyway, as soon as I adjust myself here. Uh, Again, I'm reading from Constance and I's, a version of Constance and I's all-day seminar, The Miracle of the Mass. And I hope you found yesterday sort of edifying. Anyway, I'm going to continue. Liber 15. The Mass of the Gnostic Catholic Church is a central ceremony, both public and private, of the OTO. The reason it is the central ceremony of the OTO is simply because it is the ritualized enactment of the Order's supreme secret of magic. That secret emanates from the sovereign sanctuary of the Gnosis, or the ninth degree. As such, it is patently unsuitable as a vehicle for communicating the essence and formulae of any other magical technique, religious doctrine, or social or political agenda. So in other words, it's a very specific magical technique that the Mass embodies, that communicates. So, I'm digressing here. So if you expect the Gnostic Mass to cover every base and be the central technique of every magical operation, okay. The secret is a particular magical technique of great potency and efficacy. It is held sacred and secret by the members of the sovereign sanctuary of the Gnosis, whose duty it is to incorporate and apply the secret in their magical lives. Nevertheless, sincere and diligent individuals, members and non-members alike, are encouraged to prepare themselves to understand and eventually apply this wonderful magic by regular exposure to the spiritual and sensory pageantry of the Mass. The Gnostic Mass is a ceremony created by our Grand Master Baphomet to communicate through its officers, implements, words, movements, gestures, and the order of ceremony, the essence of this supreme secret. It was designed in such a way that if the celebrants employ the implements, recite the words, perform the movements, assume the gestures, and strictly observe the order of ceremony, as outlined in the text, the magic of the supreme secret will in essence be accomplished. The magic will happen even if the Mass officers and the congregation are not members of the sovereign sanctuary and are not possessed with a full understanding or appreciation of the technique. How can this happen? The student actors in a junior high or high school production of Romeo and Juliet have a very limited appreciation of the profundity of the play compared to seasoned Shakespearean actors. But if they are competent in their roles and if they are true to the script, the words they speak and the actions they perform can trigger in individual members of the audience, those with an interest and an attention span, they can trigger in the members of the audience profound spiritual insights and illumination, and can actually induce altered and sublime states of consciousness. In other words, well, you know, the new quantum physics thing is that the conditions of an experiment are actually altered by the mere act that the experiment is being observed. Okay, observation changes the factors of an experiment. So too, the audience is where the magic takes place in a theatrical performance. I was blessed years ago to study acting at the Lee Strasberg Film and Studio and Theater Institute in Los Angeles. And at the time, Strasberg was teaching the weekly class there. And the idea of the Stanislavski method, among other technical aspects of it, is that if something truthful is going on in the mind of the actor, anything truthful, doesn't have to be related to the play or anything else. If anything truthful is going on in the mind of the actor, in a way, the essence of truth, generic truth, sort of shines forth from everything from their body movements to their facial expressions, sort of the light in their eyes. Generic truth speaks forth when truth is going on inside. And it's the audience that translates that generic truth into the specific truth of the circumstances of the scene that the actor is playing. So in other words, all the magic takes place in the audience. And a Gnostic mass, or a celebration for the public, the magic is taking place, the true magic, in the consciousness of the congregation or the audience. So that's the point I'm getting at here. Even in a high school performance of Romeo and Juliet, these kids may not know what the hell 99.99% of the play is really about, but if they're true to the script and they keep themselves true, it's the audience upon whom the altered state of consciousness is applied. Same with the Gnostic Mass. So the actions they perform can trigger in individual members of the audience profound and spiritual insights and illumination, and can induce altered and sublime states of consciousness. In other words, that was my digression. In other words, even though the priest and priestess may not have yet a perfect understanding of the supreme secret, they're authorized by the OTO and the church to portray initiates who do. So our seminar, when we do the whole thing, will examine the nature of the supreme secret. Without violating our oaths, we will try to explain the Mass in light of the secret, instead of trying to make you guess the secret in light of the Mass. I say secret, and secret it is. What isn't secret is a well-published fact that it concerns a technique of sexual magic. Essentially, as written, the ritual portrays the celebrants as a man and a woman, but variations on the theme of the central secret make it also applicable for solitary and homosexual workings, and Crowley's diaries are full of these experiments. But the Gnostic Mass, or Liber 15 itself, that the particular ceremony that we're talking about, as written and officially celebrated, does not reflect or accommodate all or any of the myriad variations in the officers or the order of ceremony or the basic formula. The basic formula could apply in a million things and a million mix and matches, okay? But as written and officially celebrated, okay, this particular ritual does not make those accommodations, I guess you'd say, or those variations. Anyone who's slightly familiar with Aleister Crowley and his work knows that he was not homophobic. His Gnostic Mass is not a biological, cultural, political, or magical statement on the virtues of heterosexual relationships. The OTO exists primarily to protect and perpetuate this particular magical secret and to prepare and provide its most serious and tenacious initiates the tools to discover it. Now, perhaps some of you probably think you already know the supreme secret. That's not surprising. A summary of the technique can be communicated in a few well-chosen words. Some of the biggest idiots I know have figured out the secret. Just look at the internet. It still doesn't mean that they truly understand the secret or are capable of executing it. Figuring out the secret neither makes you a ninth degree, nor does it make you a priest or a priestess. Discovering that the various landmarks of the Mass represent elements of the sex act is hardly a veil-rending revelation. And it certainly isn't the essence of this particular magical operation, because in the final analysis, the sex act itself is merely a symbolic expression of the secret. The OTO's graded degree system was ingeniously designed by Crowley, not so much as a program to gradually unfold the secret to the candidate, but a process that gradually unfolds the candidate to the secret. In truth, the secret really isn't a secret at all. It's a fact of life. In the same way the law of gravity is a fact of life, or the speed of light, or the nature of matter. And please don't think that Constance and I are claiming to know everything there is to know about the supreme secret or the Gnostic Mass. We don't. Nobody does. However, by virtue of the sum total of our OTO experience and 30-year intimate participation of the mysteries of the Mass, we feel qualified to voice our views and share our insights on the subject. So there. Some people think the Gnostic Mass is not so perfect. Some think it's too patriarchal because the priest does most of the talking. And they heard that Crowley was such a pig. Others think it's too goddess-centered because the priestess gets all the worship. And they heard Crowley was such a pig. And almost everyone is outraged that there are no women saints in the collects because Crowley was such a pig. All these points are well taken, and in truth, almost every criticism of the Mass I've ever heard has sprung from intelligent and legitimate spiritual concerns. But one understands the Mass in light of the secret, and not the secret in light of the Mass. In my opinion, most, if not all, critics of the Mass suffer from one primary and fundamental misunderstanding. They wildly overestimate the Mass's ability to work its magic successfully, even after changing and tinkering with the text and instructions as written in Liber 15. Let's say the magical dynamo that's created by the execution of the supreme secret of the ninth degree is an apple pie. The formal ceremonial expression of the apple pie can be found in the recipe. The apple pie recipe defines the apple pie. It's the Yetziratic apple pie, if you will, the recipe. Precise execution of the recipe begets the apple pie. Let's be very simplistic and say that the officers of the apple pie are the apple filling, the sweet and succulent spears of the forbidden fruit, the crust, who will accommodate the apple filling and enclose and cover it in her warm and flaky embrace, and the sugar and spices. These ingredients must be properly brought together and placed in a controlled environment of an oven. There, the heat of the oven will draw out the bubbling sweet nectars of the apple and fuse them ecstatically with the fragrant sugared spices. Before serving, the chef tastes a bit of the finished product, rolls it around for a moment in his or her mouth, then swallows. Apple pie. Our temple is the kitchen, and for temple furniture we have the refrigerator, the sink, the tabletop, and the oven. Our magical weapons are the knife, the spoon, the mixing bowl, measuring cup, the pie pan, and perhaps a saucepan. There are plenty of things you can make in the kitchen temple with these weapons. But if you follow the directions as written out in the apple pie recipe, you'll get an apple pie. It only makes sense that if we want to make an apple pie, but decide to alter the temple by changing the venue to, say, the North Pole, where there is no sink, tabletop, or oven, no matter how perfectly we've collected our officers and weapons, the apple pie as we know it will not be forthcoming. Or let's say you think it's a good idea to alter the order of the ceremony by first sticking the ingredients in the heated oven, then washing them in cold water in the sink. Or if you decide to switch the function of the officers by dumping flour into a sugar crust and covering it with apples. Or you alter the nature of the officers by substituting hamburger and anchovies in the place of apple and sugar. It'll be something, for certain. But no matter what you call it, it won't really be an apple pie. And everyone who tastes it, believing it to be an apple pie, will be cruelly misled. If you want to make a hamburger pie, then locate or create a hamburger pie recipe. It might be good, but it won't be an apple pie. Also, don't expect to be taken seriously if you go to the Royal Academy of Master Apple Pie Bakers and ridicule them because they are hamburger-phobic, because you see no ground beef in their apple pie. Innovate and experiment to your heart's content. But if you don't follow the essentials of the recipe, it won't be an apple pie. And if you don't follow the essentials of Liber 15, it won't be a Gnostic Mass, and you won't be dealing with the supreme secret of the OTO. Good magicians have their own styles, and there is, of course, plenty of room for diversity within the recipe, which will not result in the loss of the final product. But there are certain very fundamental changes that will most definitely change the outcome. In my opinion, the Mass's severest critics are well-meaning individuals who are not yet equipped to understand the finished product, to differentiate between seasoning for taste and the unintentional creation of another kind of pie. And that's where we'll leave our discussion of the Gnostic Mass, at least for today. I hope you followed that along okay, and that you'll be with us tomorrow. Anyway, continue to be good to yourself. Be good to yourself first. That's the only way you can be good to others too. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Apple pie.